Today's lesson is called The Pros and Cons of Genetically Modified Foods. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff.
And I'm referred to as Roger. Today we're going to be talking about food. And no, we're not talking about different kinds of snacks you can try in the night market or different kinds of food you can have at various restaurants. We're talking about the production of food and mucking around with the genetic makeup of food to try to make the food heartier for a starving world. Of course, we're going to be talking about GM foods, or the pros and cons of genetically modified foods.
Yeah, some people don't like it when other people, like scientists or stuff like that, they don't like it when they mess around with Mother Nature. And very often scientists at big laboratories, at big corporations, they kind of do mess around with Mother Nature. They genetically modify, or they change at the genetic level certain things like food. By the way, usually the word food is a non-count noun. You'd say, wow, you ate that much food? Incredible. But here we're talking about a wide array of different things that people eat, or foods. So we're making it clear that there's not just one thing that has been changed in terms of food. Apparently there are many genetically modified foods out there. And some people, well, they don't like these things. Like I said before, some people don't think that you should mess around with Mother Nature. That being said, there are people against these things, and then people who are for these things as well. So that's why we're talking about the pros and cons of genetically modified foods. And yes, we'll start to do so right after this, so let's take a short break.
The pros and cons of genetically modified foods. You're at the supermarket buying a pack of tofu. Looking at the brands on the shelf, you see one with the words, "Made with non-GM soybeans" written on the label. Does this information make you want to choose that brand?
大家好，在标题中我们看到一个片语 pros and cons， 用来表示赞成和反对的理由、优缺点。例如 You should know the pros and cons of owning a car in the city before you buy one. 你应该在买车前知道在市区拥有车子的好处与坏处。另外，补充其他两个与 pros and cons 有类似结构的词。首先可以用 ups and downs， 用来指起伏、兴衰。我们可以说Last year was filled with ups and downs, but I feel that they made me a stronger person. 去年充满了起起伏伏，但我觉得那使我变得更坚强。再来 ins and outs 有详情、来龙去脉的意思。所以可以说 The incoming freshmen at the university need to learn the ins and outs of life in a dormitory. 这群大学新鲜人必须了解宿舍生活的种种细节。
Okay, again, we're talking about the pros and cons of GM foods, the advantages and disadvantages of genetically modified foods. If you're talking about pros and cons, you could use that in different situations. For example, you could talk about the pros and cons of studying abroad. If you go to a university in another country, of course, there are lots of advantages to that, but there are some disadvantages as well. It's probably going to be more expensive. You'll have to spend time away from your family. But the pros are that you probably get a good education and you can learn some new things as well. But in any case, here we're talking about the advantages and disadvantages of GM foods. Let's dive into this here. In the first paragraph, it says, here's a scenario. You're at the supermarket buying a pack of tofu. Tofu is the word we use in the West for tofu. Tofu, of course, is the Chinese word, but we say tofu. And yes, indeed, you use tofu in a lot of cooking. And so you're at the supermarket buying tofu. It comes in a package or a pack. And looking at the brands on the shelf, you see one with the words, made with non-GM soybeans, written on the label. If you're a smart shopper, of course, you're going to read the label before you buy anything. So you kind of compare the labels and you see one that says made with non-GM soybeans, which means it's not using GM ingredients.
There you go. No one messed with Mother Nature when it comes to these soybeans. These soybeans have not been genetically modified, so the tofu is made with these non-GM soybeans. So imagine this scenario. You're buying tofu at a supermarket. Okay, you reach over, you grab this package, and it says this on the package, that this tofu has been made with non-GM soybeans. Okay, so what do? Do you think, hey, this is great? Or do you think, oh, really? I wanted some genetically modified soybeans making my tofu. So what do? If you see this label, do you think that's good or do you think that's bad? Yeah, does this information make you want to choose that brand? And by the way, depending on how you answer this question, you are going to identify yourself as either being in favor of GM foods or opposed to GM foods. Anyways, we'll start to answer this question right after we take a short break. And then we'll definitely get into the nitty-gritty when it comes to the pros and cons of genetically modified foods.
For some, it does. Genetically modified, GM plants, which commonly include corn, rice, and potatoes, are plants whose DNA has undergone genetic engineering to make them much hardier. Many people believe that GM foods are the answer to one of today's most important issues. The United Nations expects the world population to reach beyond 11 billion by 2100, so we'll need more food to support the growing number of people. GM crops allow for greater food production because they can grow under extreme weather conditions and they're resistant to diseases and pests. In this sense, modified crops may be a dependable food source for feeding the world.
第二部分，我们看到一个动词 undergo， 指经历、接受、治疗、检查等。动词三态是 undergo, underwent, undergone。像是 The product underwent several changes before finally being released to the public。这个产品经历过数次修改，最后才公开在大众面前。又或者说Rita underwent multiple blood tests before the doctors told her she was healthy. Rita 接受了多种血液测验，然后医生告诉她她很健康。接下来我们看到形容词 hardy， 指植物适应能力强的、耐寒。另外 hardy 还可以用来形容人大胆的、勇敢的。我们可以说 The hardy men faced their enemies without fear。这些勇敢的人面对敌人无所畏惧。再来，我们看到一个单字 resistant， 这个字是形容词，用来形容抗的，不受损害的。像是 The vegetables were genetically engineered to be more resistant to disease。这种蔬菜经过基因工程改良，加强抗病性。另外，补充 resistant 的名词 resistance。RESISTANCE 指阻力、反抗。所以可以说 There was a lot of resistance to the management's plan to reduce vacation days in the company. 关于管理部门将减少假期的计划在公司内出现很多反抗。接着我们看到形容词 dependable 指可靠的、可信赖的。举例来说Anna is a very dependable person, so I'm sure that she would make a great employee. Anna 是个可靠的人，所以我相信她会是一个很棒的员工。另外，补充一个与 dependable 同义的单字 reliable, R-E-L-I-A-B-L-E。所以我们可以说 No one gives Lexi any important work to do because she's not reliable. 没有人会交代重要的工作给 Lexi 做。因为它不可靠。
Now, remember, everybody, at the end of the first paragraph, we asked the question, does this information make you want to choose that brand? If you read the label and it says made with non-GM soybeans, they're natural soybeans, they have not been genetically modified, does that information make you want to choose that brand, buy that brand and not the other brand? Well, for some, it does. For some people, that is important. It does matter. It does want you or does make you buy something that does not have GM ingredients. Some people just don't like those. They're scared of them. Maybe GM products are too new and we really don't know if they're good for us or bad for us. So lots of people would say, let me just buy the natural stuff.
There you go. For some, it does. This information makes them want to choose this non-GM soybean brand of tofu. So for some, yes, they think, hey, this is a good thing. I don't want people meddling with my soybeans and with my tofu. Anyways, yes, for some it does. Genetically modified or GM plants, which commonly include corn, rice, and potatoes, are plants whose DNA has undergone genetic engineering to make them much hardier. Now, we've got a lot to talk about in this sentence, but it's all important. First of all, let's talk about this adjective genetic. Genetic means of or having to do with the genes. But here, what are we talking about with genes? First of all, we're not talking about pants, the cowboy pants, okay? That would be Jeans. Those are pants, jeans. Here, the word is Gene, genes. And yes, when we're talking about genes, we're talking about the stuff that makes our body up at a very, very basic level, okay? We got our genes from our parents, and those genes determine how we look and how we act, so on and so forth, okay? Somewhere in our genetic code there is a piece of us that tells us what hair color we're going to have, what eye color we're going to have, what type of nose we're going to have, what color skin we're going to have, so on, so forth. These are our genes. That's the noun, gene, okay? Genes kind of make us who we are. And yes, that's the noun, gene. The adjective is genetic.
Indeed. So yes, for some people this does matter. These are GM plants, and they commonly include corn, rice, and potatoes, and they are plants whose DNA has undergone genetic engineering to make them much hardier. So here, of course, we've got the term DNA. I think we've all heard that. I know in the Chinese news here, you all just kind of use the word DNA and don't use the Chinese term, so I'm not going to spend any time explaining that. But they've undergone this engineering. They've had this engineering done to them. If you go have an operation, you're undergoing surgery, we could say. And as you said, genetic means having to do with genes. Genetic engineering. Hardier means they're able to withstand difficult conditions like the winter. The plum blossom tree is a hardy tree and it can blossom in the winter.
There you go. Very simply, this word hardier, or it comes from hardy, I should say, is very similar to the word durable. But usually it's living things that are hardy, whereas objects are durable. Yes, if you have a durable thing, that thing is going to last. It's built well, and it can really take a licking and keep on ticking. Now, living things aren't usually durable, like I said before. Objects are durable. Things that are living can be said to be hardy if they're kind of durable. Anyways, yes, GM plants, genetically modified plants, have been changed to make them hardier, i.e. they will last and last and last. They won't be killed by things easily. They will be tough, tough plants. Now, many people believe that GM foods are the answer to one of today's most important issues. Yeah, the United Nations expects the world population to reach beyond 11 billion by the year 2100, I should say. So we'll need more food to support the growing number of people. So yes, we need more food because the population on planet Earth is rising. But where is this extra food going to come from to feed all of these people?
It's a big question. So of course, GM crops allow for greater food production because they can grow under extreme weather conditions and they're resistant to diseases and pests. So we could say GM foods are hardy. They can withstand extreme weather conditions, which we're going to have more and more of as climate change becomes more of a reality here. So in any case, yes, farmers and scientists and politicians are all trying to think of ways to grow more food because the population is increasing, and these crops allow for greater food production. So production just refers to when you can make something, the process of creating something, the process of producing something. So we're talking about food production. Food production decreases with bad weather.
There you go. GM crops allow for greater food production, i.e., they let us make more food. That's what we're talking about here. But yes, let's be clear. If you allow for something here, we're not saying that someone's been given permission, let's say, okay? If these GM crops allow for something, they make that possible. So GM crops make possible, or they make it possible for us to make more food or to produce more food. They allow us greater food production, or they give us the capability to produce more food. Now, here it says that they allow for greater food production. Why? Well, because GM crops can grow under extreme weather conditions. Maybe they can still grow and flourish in very super hot conditions or very dry conditions or too wet conditions or stuff like that. So yes, GM crops allow for this to happen. And get this, they're also resistant to diseases and pests. By the way, if you have resistance to something, or if you are resistant to that thing does not affect you. Yes, resistant is the adjective, and yes, also resistance is the noun. You can be resistant to something or have resistance to that thing. Like when you get a vaccine, the idea is that you develop resistance to a disease so that you won't get that disease. You'll be resistant to that disease.
Right, so I could say I've been poisoned so many times that I'm now resistant to attempts by people to murder me. And of course, the verb form of this is to resist, which means to try to stay away from something and not let it influence you. Like you could say, "Oh, Mr. Lee, you are such a handsome and rich man. I can't resist you. I want to be with you forever." But here, of course, these GM products are resistant to diseases and pests like bugs and things that eat these things. We don't want the bugs eating these plants. We want people to eat them because we're going to have 11 billion people in a pretty short time here. Now, in this sense, modified crops may be a dependable food source for feeding the world. So if you think about it this way, in this sense, from this point of view, modified crops are good. They could be a dependable source of food for a hungry world. Dependable means you can depend on it, you can rely on it.
There you go. By the way, from what I'm reading here, I think that GM crops sound pretty good. It sounds like these are the pros, the positives, the advantages of GM crops. Yeah, you can produce more food. These crops can grow under extreme weather conditions. They're resistant to diseases and pests. And yeah, they're also going to be a dependable food source for feeding the world well into the future. These are all good things. These are the pros of genetically modified foods. But yes, everyone, the other shoe is going to drop. At some point, we're going to have to hear about the cons of GM foods, the drawbacks, the disadvantages. Anyways, for now, though, it is time for us to take a short break, but don't go away. When we come back, we are going to be wrapping up part 1 of our article on GM foods.
GM crops can also meet the needs of the poor in developing countries, as they tend to rely on a single food source, such as rice, for their nutrition. While traditional rice doesn't contain enough essential nutrients for a healthy diet, GM rice can be engineered to contain more nutritional benefits. People in favor of GM crops therefore say they play an important role in fighting malnutrition.
最后第3部分，我们看到单字 malnutrition 这个字是名词，用来指营养不良。例如 George donates part of his salary every month to support children suffering from severe malnutrition. George 每个月捐出薪水的一部分来资助严重营养不良的孩童们。
All right, we're continuing to talk about the pros of GM foods, the advantages of GM crops. So GM crops can also meet the needs of the poor people living in developing countries, as they tend to rely on a single food source, such as rice, for their nutrition. So that's good for poor people living in developing countries like Bangladesh or something like that, because in those countries, people tend to depend on or rely on a single source of food like rice for their nutrition, or at least they eat a lot of rice in their diet. That sounds kind of boring to me. Of course, I like to have a lot of variety, but of course, people in developing countries sometimes don't have that luxury. Rice is all they get.
There you go. So, I get the feeling that if everyone's eating rice and you've got these GM crops and you can produce a whole lot of rice no matter what, and it's going to be dependable, the source of food is going to be dependable, that this is going to be a good thing. Yeah, these poor people in developing countries, they tend to rely on a single food source. So if you can produce more of that single food source and you can do so dependably with these GM crops, well, that's a good thing, right? Yeah, it sounds pretty good to me. This sounds like one of the pros for genetically modified foods. Anyways, yes, the poor, I should say, in developing countries tend to rely on a single food source, such as rice, for their nutrition. And while traditional rice doesn't contain enough essential nutrients for a healthy diet, GM rice can be engineered to contain more nutritional benefits. So there you go. If it were just rice alone, you couldn't make enough to feed everyone. Get this, GM foods, though, you can make this rice. You can genetically modify this rice not only to be more abundant, but to also have more nutritional benefits. How about that? The pros are starting to stack up.
And here the last sentence says, people in favor of GM crops, or people who support GM crops, therefore say they play an important role in fighting malnutrition. So, of course, malnutrition refers to a state or condition when people aren't getting enough nutrition, and maybe they don't grow very tall, or they have more diseases and things like that. So, of course, that's no good. So that's why people would say, hey, GM crops are good. They can help people get better nutrition. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation. Let's hear from our Chinese teacher now.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。读到课文的最后一句，他说 People in favor of GM crops therefore say they play an important role in fighting malnutrition. 因此基改作物的支持者说，他们在对抗营养不良上扮演重要的角色。那这边要介绍3个重点。第一个是 in favor of。 favor 当名词，它有偏爱或是帮忙的意思。那么 in favor of 可以用来表达支持、赞成，也可以表达想要或是选择的意思。例如 Not everyone is in favor of the new policy， 意思就是说并不是每个人都支持那一项新政策。好，再造一个例句哦。 The city is often passed over in favor of better known destinations. 这个城市常常因为人们偏好更知名的旅游景点而被忽略了。好，那顺便补充一下，我们可以用 fall out of favor 来表达不再受到喜爱，失宠了。像是 The chat app has fallen out of favor， 那个聊天应用程式已经失宠了，不受人们欢迎了。好，第二个重点是要介绍 play a role。 从字面上来看，它是指饰演一个角色，那它也可以用来表达对什么什么有影响，在什么什么当中占有分量。像文中的 play an important role， 扮演重要的角色，就可以用来表达有重要的影响。好，那像它这个用法呢，就是用 play a role 加上 in 再加名词或动名词。这个 role 的前面你还可以加上形容词，像是 important 重要的， major 主要的， key 关键的， crucial 决定性的重要的等等。例如Technology plays a major role in modern life. 科技在现代生活中扮演着主要角色，扮演着要角，对我们的生活有很大的影响。 好，第三个要介绍的是字首 mal 这个部分，它表示bad 或者是 badly， 也就是有坏的或者是不良的语义。像课文里面这个 malnutrition， 它是由字首 mal 表示不良或是不充分，再搭配 nutrition 表示营养，合在一起 malnutrition 就是营养不良。那我们顺便补充几个也有 mal 这个字首的单字。好，第一个是 adjustment，它表示调整、调试。当我们在前面加上字首 mal 变成 maladjustment， 表示说不适应或者是失调。好，第二个是 treatment， 它表示对待嘛。那我们在前面加上字首 mal 变成 maltreatment， 那就表示虐待。好，第三个 function， 它表示功能。我们在前面加上字首 mal 变成 malfunction，那就表示功能故障、机能失常。好，第四个 formation， 它是指形成或组成。那前面加上字首 mal 变成 malformation， 那就表示可能是指畸形啊，或是残废等等。好，第五个叫做 malware， malware。我们知道 software 是软体，hardware 是硬体，其中这个 ware 它就是有物体这个器物的意思。malware 就是用来表达恶意软体。好，以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Undergo. New employees must undergo a 6-week training course before starting work. Genetic. Doctors now believe that a variety of genetic factors increase the risk of getting the disease. Hardy. Only very hardy plants are able to survive in this climate zone. Production. Rice production fell short of the target this year, so additional rice had to be imported. Resistant. This type of bacteria has become resistant to several different drugs. Dependable. Surprisingly, the most dependable car I ever had was a used vehicle.
Okay, everyone. With that, today's article is now complete. But, as always, we sure hope that you guys have enjoyed reading along with us. Anyways, I'm Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.